Which ones did you think, David, and why?
So for learning a script, I said that 5 of the things we've talked about so far would really help an agent learn a script. So we've seen in the past that semantic networks and frames are representationally equivalent. We saw that when we put the Raven's progressive matrices problems in terms of first semantic networks and then converted them to frames. Frames, as we've seen, are very useful for storing the type of information necessary to construct a thorough script. And if semantic networks are representationally equivalent, then we can also imagine a script composed of semantic networks instead. To skip the middle couple for a second, I can imagine incremental concept learning being very important to learning scripts. We can imagine an AI agent acting in the world and encountering multiple events every day and needing to start to kind of develop a categorization scheme for those different experiences. So for example, that agent might learn that if I'm developing a script for fast food, whether or not I see a McDonald's logo or a Wendy's logo when I walk in is not necessarily important to which script I run, but whether or not I see a counter with cashiers behind it or a hostess waiting to seat me is important. So that way, an agent could use incremental concept learning to learn the difference between, for example, a fast food script and a fine dining script. So as Ashok discussed before, planning happens when an agent has an initial state and a goal state and figures out how to navigate between the two. Once they've figured out that plan for navigating between that initial state and that goal state, that then becomes a script that could be transferred to a new similar situation without having to completely replan their route from scratch. Then finally, common sense reasoning helps the agent out because it gives the agent a kind of a language within which to learn the script in the first place. It can learn a script within this language of primitive actions that it understands and then can use those to make sense of new and novel situations. Production systems and learning by recording cases don't really apply as much to scripts because they both involve representations at a very different level of abstraction, at a very low level of abstraction. With learning by recording cases, we tend to stick to the cases, whereas scripts we have an abstraction over them. And production systems are more like atoms of knowledge representation instead of molecules or compounds like we deal with scripts.
That's good, David. I may add one other thing regarding the semantic network. Recall that when we had discussed semantic networks, we had considered how we can use semantic networks to interpret stories. We'd use the same example. Ashok wanted to become rich, he got a gun. And we said that inside the semantic network, the nodes that correspond to Ashok, wanted, rich, and gun get activated. And these activations spread from there, and as a path gets formed in the semantic network, that path then is the interpretation of this particular story. In a sense, a script is that path.
Of course, if you think you see a connection between production systems or learning by recording cases and scripts that I haven't seen, or if you think that the connection between these other topics and scripts is not quite as close as I've described, feel free to head over to our forums and we'll discuss it there.